All right, let's dive in, and I mean really dive in, into the world of blue holes. You know, those underwater sinkholes, sometimes so blue they look almost otherworldly compared to the water around them.
Yeah, they're like these visual anomalies in the ocean, and they've fascinated people for centuries, from divers to scientists.
And today we're going deep on the science, the history, the whole shebang, what makes them so unique, what secrets they hold, even some of the dangers they pose. Because it's not all just pretty colors down there.
Exactly. I mean, they're visually stunning, no doubt. But what I find really captivating is what they tell us about the planet's past, both ecologically and archaeologically. They're like hidden windows into history.
Right, like there's this whole other world beneath the surface just waiting to be explored. So before we get to all that, let's start with the basics. What exactly is a blue hole? Like, geologically speaking, how do they even form?
So picture this. Go way back to the last ice age, right? Sea levels were much lower then, which meant more land was exposed.
Okay, makes sense so far.
Now, rainwater, which is naturally slightly acidic, would have been eroding away at the limestone bedrock over, well, millennia. It's a slow process. And this erosion would carve out these massive cave systems.
Ah, I see where you're going with this.
Fast forward to today, sea levels rise, those caves get flooded, and boom, you have yourself a blue hole.
Okay, that explains the whole part, but what about the blue part? Why that striking, almost ink-like blue compared to the surrounding water?
Ah, good question. It's all about light, or rather, the lack of it. See, as water gets deeper, more and more of the white spectrum gets absorbed.
Interesting.
And eventually, only those blue wavelengths are left to reflect back up to our eyes. So that intense blue color is actually a sign of incredible depth and often incredibly clear water.
So it's like nature's own depth chart. The bluer it is, the deeper it is. No wonder they've inspired so many myths and legends throughout history.
Oh, absolutely. Many cultures saw them as gateways to other realms, homes to sea monsters, places of magic and mystery. And, even with all we know scientifically now, there's still something undeniably mysterious about them, don't you think?
100%. Like that human fascination with the unknown just gets amplified underwater. But it's not all myths and monsters, right? We're talking about real scientific discoveries happening in these blue holes. What have we actually found down there that's so significant?
Think of them like underwater time capsules. Because the oxygen levels in many blue holes are so low, things get preserved really, really well.
Okay, that makes sense. So what kind of things are we talking about?
We're talking fossilized coral reefs that are thousands upon thousands of years old, sometimes even ancient human artifacts.
Wow. So each dive is potentially a journey back in time.
In a way, it is. One incredible find, and there are many, but this one always sticks with me, was a perfectly preserved skull of a giant sloth. Found it in a blue hole in the Bahamas.
A giant sloth. Wow, that's wild. How old was it?
They dated it to be around 12,000 years old. Gave us so much insight into the megafauna that roamed the Earth during the last ice age.
That's incredible. So it's not just about the beauty of these places, but what they can teach us about our planet's past.
Exactly. And that's a big reason why they're so valuable to researchers.
Mm-hmm.
By studying the layers of sediment, the fossilized life, even the chemical composition of the water itself, we can start to piece together this incredible timeline of Earth's history.
Fascinating. They're like these little, well, not so little, but these self-contained environments that hold clues to the past in a way that few other places can.
Exactly. They offer us a unique window into past climates, past ecosystems, even past human activity. It's incredible.
Okay, you've sold me on the science and the mystery, but I gotta say, part of the allure of blue holes, at least for me, is the adventure of it all. So where in the world can we find the most impressive of these underwater wonders?
Oh, you're talking about blue hole bucket lists now.
Maybe.
Well, you can't talk about blue holes without mentioning the Big Daddy, the Great Blue Hole in Belize. It is massive. You can actually see it from space.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. It's like this perfect circle of deep blue in the middle of the ocean. It's beautiful.
It's incredible. And it's way bigger than you probably think. We're talking wider than 3 football fields.
Yeah.
And it gets even more interesting. About 130 feet down, you find these huge stalactites and stalagmites.
Wait, hold on.
It's a prime example of how these were once dry caves. Remember how we talked about the lower sea levels during the Ice Age? That's when those formations would have developed. As the ice melted and the sea level rose, it flooded the cave, creating what we see today.
So it's like this single blue hole holds multiple chapters of Earth's history. That's amazing. All right, from one giant to another, what about Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas? I've heard freedivers are obsessed with it. Why is that?
Well, it plunges down over 660 feet, making it one of, if not the deepest blue holes in the world. So free divers, they love it.
Yeah, over 600 feet is just, I can't even imagine. It's exhilarating and terrifying all at the same time. But as with any extreme environment, there are risks, right? What are some of the things we should know about the dangers of diving in blue holes?
Absolutely. It's important to remember that diving, especially to those depths, requires specialized training. It's not just your casual swim. Divers have to be really careful about how quickly they ascend because that rapid change in pressure can cause nitrogen bubbles to form in your blood, which leads to something we call decompression sickness or the bends.
Decompression sickness, I've heard of it. Isn't that really dangerous?
Can be. We're talking excruciating pain, and in some cases, it can even be fatal. That's why we use technical diving, specific gas mixtures, and very strict decompression protocols. It's all about safety when exploring these deep blue holes.
So it's definitely not just holding your breath and diving down as far as you can.
No, not at all. There's a lot of science, training, and preparation involved. You wouldn't climb Mount Everest without proper training and an understanding of the risks involved, would you?
Right, that makes sense.
It's the same with blue holes. They're awe-inspiring, but they demand our respect.
I like that. So we've talked about Belize, the Bahamas, but what about the deepest blue hole on Earth? Wasn't that discovered recently?
Relatively recently, yes.
Yeah.
That would be Dragon Hole in the South China Sea.
What's it like? Just how deep are we talking?
It goes down over 980 feet deeper than the Eiffel Tower is tall.
Wow, that's just mind-blowing.
It's truly incredible.
And what's even wilder is because of how deep it is, all the challenges involved in exploring it, we don't know that much about it. I mean, it wasn't until 2016 that we even confirmed its depth. It's like a modern-day mystery. Makes you wonder what else is down there.
It really does. And one thing we do know is that these extreme depths, where sunlight can't reach, harbor unique ecosystems, completely different from what we see in shallower waters.
Like what? Give me some cool deep-sea creature examples.
Well, think of them like underwater islands. Blue holes are often geographically isolated, so life down there has evolved in really unique ways.
Fascinating.
It's led to this incredible biodiversity. In fact, a recent expedition to a blue hole in the Bahamas, they found something like 30 new species of marine life.
Seriously, 30 new species in just one blue hole.
Just in one. We're talking bizarre crustaceans, fish that have adapted to survive in these low-oxygen environments, even brand new types of bacteria. It's incredible.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered the beauty, the mystery, and even touched on the risks. But what about some of the lesser-known dangers of diving in a blue hole? I mean, is it just the depth and the wildlife that we have to worry about?
Those are big ones. But there are definitely other things to consider, like the currents in blue holes. They can be really unpredictable, even for experienced divers.
Oh, I bet. You're down there, limited visibility, and suddenly...
Exactly. You get swept away into the darkness. That's a recipe for disaster.
Not good. Not good. It's easy to get caught up in the beauty and forget that nature, it does what it wants. And then there's the whole psychological aspect. I imagine diving in a blue hole, especially a deep one, could really mess with your head.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Sensory deprivation is a real thing. You're surrounded by this blue void. The light fades as you descend. Everything's quiet. It can play tricks on your mind, even if you're an experienced diver. It's something to be aware of.
It's like that feeling of being lost in the woods, but amplified by a million because you're underwater and can't just look up at the sky.
Exactly. It's a whole other world down there. And that's why responsible diving is so important, especially in environments like these. It's not just about having the right gear and knowing the technical stuff. It's about respecting the power of these places, knowing your own limits.
Right. Respecting the blue hole itself, not pushing it too far.
Exactly. And being prepared for the unexpected. Because down there, anything can happen.
Good point. But it's not all doom and gloom, is it? We've talked about the beauty, the mystery, the risks, but I think it's important to touch on why these ecosystems are so important, why we need to protect them.
Absolutely. Beyond their beauty, beyond their scientific value, blue holes play this vital role in the larger marine ecosystem. They often act as nurseries for various fish species. And those unique conditions we talked about, well, they support a delicate balance of life that we're only beginning to understand.
So they're like these hidden oases, contributing to the overall health of the ocean.
That's a great way to put it. But unfortunately, they're facing increasing threats. Pollution, irresponsible tourism, all of these things are impacting blue holes around the world.
That's the thing, isn't it? We're drawn to their beauty, we want to experience them, but we also have to acknowledge the impact we have.
Exactly. It's a balance. Just like we talked about respecting the blue hole itself as divers,
Yeah.
we need to respect it for the marine life that depends on it.
What are some things that people can do, even if they're not divers or live near a blue hole, to help protect these ecosystems?
Supporting sustainable tourism is a huge one. If you're planning a trip to see a blue hole, do your research. Choose operators that are committed to conservation, to responsible diving practices, and just be mindful of your own personal impact. Even little things like using reef-safe sunscreen can make a difference.
It's those little things, right, that collectively can make a big impact.
100%.
Well, I have to say, this deep dive into the world of blue holes has been incredible. I honestly started out thinking they were just these beautiful, mysterious places.
Which they are, of course.
Of course. But now I see them as so much more than that. They're time capsules, they're unique ecosystems, they're these incredible adventure playgrounds.
All rolled into one. And as we continue to explore and understand them better, who knows what else we'll discover?
That's the thing, isn't it? What will we discover next about these underwater worlds? And more importantly, what will we do to ensure they're around for future generations? That's something for everyone to think about maybe the next time you see a picture of a blue hole, or if you're lucky enough, get to experience one firsthand. These breathtaking formations, they offer us a glimpse into the past, a window into the present, and a responsibility for the future. So dive in, explore, be amazed, but most importantly, be respectful. Thanks for listening.